Hello, welcome to Podsongs. I'm Jack Stafford. I interview inspiring people as inspiration for new songs. Now, I've been speaking to people from England and America mostly, but now I want to spread the net out a bit wider, get a bit more multicultural, more international. And I got lucky straight away with the next person I'm going to speak to, who is the host of the #1 podcast in the Philippines. She's also a TV presenter, speaker, digital creative, and campaigner for children's education. Welcome, Joyce Pring.
Hi, Jack. I'm happy to be here.
Well, it's lovely to have you. And I just want to start straight away by lowering your expectations because, as you probably already heard, I'm not a professional interviewer like yourself.
That's totally fine. I'm a fan of the music that you make, so this is cool. This is very cool.
Well, I'm hoping to pick up a few tips from you because, you know, when I've listened to your podcast and you have this instant rapport with people you've obviously never met before. You have this kind of instant camaraderie and it's so natural. So how have you developed this skill? Because you started out as a video DJ, wasn't it? And you've done so many different, radio, TV, events, speaking. You have this natural aptitude for it. So how did you develop?
I think it's really just this innate need that I want to connect with people. And I feel like connecting with people really changes everything. When I go into a conversation or an interview or anything of that sort, I always look at how can I connect with this person? How can I learn from this person? How can I hear them out? How could I listen to them intentionally? And I think having that idea and motivation of just really listening to someone is a great way to connect with people, and that automatically changes the kind of conversation that you have. It automatically creates this sort of camaraderie that you were talking about, wanting to hear somebody else and wanting to have that human connection. It changes everything. And anytime I go into an interview or even just a simple conversation, I always think of it that way. So yeah.
Yeah, because there's different types of guests. I've had some people who I've only needed to ask about 3 questions just because they just talk all the time,
Mm-hmm.
So for some people, you have to you have to keep pushing and asking questions. So, I mean, how do you think up questions on the spot? Or?
I always prepare before an interview, but I always kind of take it by ear. So you have prepared questions and, you do your research, right? So one of the things that I've learned, because I worked in radio for 4 years, one of the things that has really helped me is to prepare every time I go in an interview. So we've done a lot of international acts on the show. We've done local stars also on the radio show and on TV. And you always have to have a script. But I think what makes an interviewer or conversation special is when you are actually listening to that person and following up with questions that you're getting from their answers. So I would prepare these questions, ask them the questions, but then I let myself be curious and inquisitive. You have to be curious. I always say on my podcast, if you want to be interesting, you have to be interested, which I think is such an important thing that I've learned along the way. And it's really listening intentionally with people. And, one of the books that I've recently read, 12 Rules for Life. One of the rules that they said was to talk to someone and listen to someone as if they have something to tell you that you have no idea about. Mm-hmm. And I've gone through my life always thinking that whenever I go into a conversation, this person knows something that I don't know. So I need to really listen and give my attention and my everything to this person. So I guess that's how I prepare. But, it's always nice to just kind of go with the flow and see where the conversation takes you. You're right. Sometimes there are people that gives you a very, very long, comprehensive answer for one super simple question, like probably what I'm doing right now with you.
I'm very grateful.
I'm so sorry. But there are also people where you ask them a question and all they do is give you a 1-sentence answer and you're just kind of taken aback, okay, where do I take that conversation now? So Yeah.
Yeah, I wish I could. I've been interviewed a few times, and to give long answers is quite difficult, isn't it? You start to feel halfway through the long answer, you start to feel like a bit self-conscious, like, should I really let them speak?
Yes, exactly.
It's like,
I always have to say sorry.
yeah. I feel guilty, dinner parties when people, when I start to tell a long story and everyone looks at you, I just feel too self-conscious. So,
I'm the same. Can I tell you a story though, Jack? Growing up, I've always been like that. And a couple of years ago, I think a mentor of mine told me that the reason why I felt like I couldn't keep talking about something that was important to me was because I probably have had experiences in the past where I was expressing something important to me or an idea that I had, and someone important to me told me that what I was saying wasn't important enough for me to keep going. So she was saying that, it's a defense mechanism for myself. I don't know about you. I don't want to presume, but it was a it was a defense mechanism for myself that I didn't want to keep going because I used to be stopped by other people to keep saying the things that I want to say. So she said something like, you have to find confidence in what you want to say. And the best part is, if it's a recorded interview like this, Jack, I give you all the autonomy to cut out everything that you want to cut out from the long-winded answers that I have. So that's great, right? You got the power to edit it out.
I should go back and edit some of them, but I just haven't got the time, because I'm writing songs about everyone. So I'm completely focused on that. I
Mm.
know I should go back and edit to make them more interesting, and particularly to make myself sound more intelligent. But yeah, I haven't got.
You definitely don't need that. That's very
I'm just.
interesting what you're doing.
Oh, thank you. Well, I'm just banging through them, but I noticed with your because you're with your podcast, you do interview people, but you also take it from a very personal perspective. You talk about how you seem to be such a confident person, but you battle sometimes with depression, and particularly in these COVID times when we're all in our little boxes. So, that's very brave of you to do that.
Mhm. Well, I come from the Philippines, and in our country, not a lot of people talk about mental health and mental health disabilities. I grew up being branded as just emotional or artistic, and people would just say that I was a drama queen for the things that I was going through. And when you talk about depression, instantaneously, a lot of people would think that you're incapable of harnessing healthy relationships, of thinking your own thoughts, and of actually living a life that's filled with joy. And the reason why I keep talking about my mental health illnesses and disabilities is because I want to tell people that you can be both, that you can be a joyful person going through depression and anxiety, that you can be struggling and be challenged by all these mental health issues that you're going through and still be grateful for the life that you have. And sometimes one of the big things that people with mental health disabilities go through is the stigma of having to go through life with this disability and not have anybody to talk to about it apart from probably their therapist or their psychiatrist. So I think opening up, I got a couple of followers on social media, and opening that up and bringing a platform where they could actually feel brave enough to be vulnerable about what they're going through, I think that empowers people even in small ways. So it empowered me personally, and I really hope that it does the same for those who follow me and listen to the podcast.
Oh, it definitely does. People have seen from your followers, you've got a real community, and I think
Mm.
I think it helps to look at the mind as like a separate from you. That it is like it's like a muscle, and it's on,
Mhm.
like you said before, just a few moments ago, that you're a collection of, this mind is made up of a collection of experiences, like
Mm.
software. It's been programmed. So if you had some bad, if there's some bad programming done in this, it affects the way you communicate with other people. And and you experience the world through the mind.
Mm.
So they can make you very, depression is very easy to get to, but hard to fix because you're experiencing it at the same time. If it's
Mm.
your leg, you can use your mind on your leg, but your mind is, we're using it all the time, no?
Yeah, it's like an inception of sickness because you're sick your mind is sick and you're using your mind to try and fix that
Right.
sickness, which is kind of like an inception of all the pain. And you're right, it feels like you're going through it alone, because if you're sick on your leg, you could actually ask someone to fix it for you. Like you'd go to a doctor and say, what are the medicines, what are the things that you could do to instantaneously fix this thing that I'm going through? But with your mind, it's really a personal battle. You have to do it on your own. And even if they give you medicine and therapy, you still are alone with your mind, and you have to constantly use it, as you mentioned. So it
I get the
complicates.
I get the feeling that you're somebody who, when there's something broken, that you really want to fix it, you know. So you shine the spotlight on it, you know. So you go to therapists, you read the books, you interview people on your podcast. So what are some of the things that you've learned that you could pass on to me?
Well, I guess precisely just what you mentioned. Not really focusing on solution, but not being afraid to ask for help. I think one of the things that have stifled people from growing and from being better and healthier is that we're constantly afraid to ask for help and to admit the vulnerabilities that we're currently going through and that we experience. But I think being human is being vulnerable. We're constantly vulnerable to pain and suffering and to experiences that we might not like. And actually just being honest about that vulnerability gives you the power to have control over it and to actually have peace with it. There are certain things that we can control and look for solutions for, right? Like reading the books, going to the therapy, getting the medicines. But then there are also things that you have no control over, like the circumstances that you're presented with and the things that you're currently going through and the difficulties that you might go through. But having peace with both those things, the things that we can control and the things that we cannot control, I think that really is something that's very important. And that comes with the vulnerability and the strength to actually ask for help and seek for guidance. So, my faith, I was reading about you, and you mentioned about going to a meditation trip and how it changed everything for you. And so on my part, I'm a Christian and I have the same experience. Being a Christian and having that faith really honed me and made me become a different person, because I understood life from a metaphysical perspective, that it's not just the object, the things that I'm currently seeing that I'm going through, but there's this otherworldly thing that we have to also be aware of. And I think that's part of all the human experiences that we have. So that's why I'm solutions oriented, quote unquote, because I want to open the conversation more than anything. I don't think that we can always have the right answers or even answers, period. But I think we can ask the right questions. So that's good enough for me.
Oh, yeah, I think it's like when you look upon that, you look at it as a separate. You listen to this voice and you're saying, "Oh, today I feel happy. Today I feel sad. I'm experiencing this," and that kind of observation. When you do it to extreme, when you go and see like a stand-up comedian, yeah, they're always talking about, I'm experiencing this, and then you laugh at it because, oh yeah, I'm laughing as well. Isn't it? There's no toilet paper, haha. I'm experiencing. I'm running out, or COVID. Everyone's, So when you write a song, when you write a song and it's about something that everyone can relate to, then that makes a great song just because it's very observational. So, and if you're applying that to your mental processes,
and human connection, right?
Yeah.
Like you're currently now in Italy, you grew up in the UK, I'm coming from the Philippines. We have different lives, different backgrounds, different cultures, but we talk about the same human experience. Isn't that fascinating? We've got the same human experiences.
I know. And also the Philippines is kind of a interesting place because you're in Asia, but you're very Americanized.
Yeah. Very Western.
Very Western, yeah, but you're have this Asian. So, when you think of yourself in the world, you can look to Australia and America and to Asia, and you're very in the mix. How has that affected the mentality of you and the Philippines?
That's a great question. It's weird because anytime people ask me like, the usual questions, about culture or like something that's specific to the Philippines, I can't really say anything, not like with Japan or Thailand, where you have specific things that you do just in the Philippines, just in their country. But in the Philippines, it's such a mix of culture. But, I think it also has a lot to do with the long history of colonialism in the Philippines. So I can't really blame us for that. We love everything that's Western. We gobble it up, the music, the culture, the movies, everything. But I think you're right. It's kind of like a mix of everything, and it makes it harder for you to find your identity as a Filipino. It makes it hard for me to find my identity as a Filipino, but that's where everything else comes from. I think it's easy when you come from a country that instantaneously gives you an identity, right? If you're
Right.
if you're coming from a country that has a culture that's so built in, a tradition that's so built in, you get your identity from the country where you're born and where you were raised. But for Filipinos, one of the things that I really enjoy as a Filipina is I get to create my own identity. That I'm not just a Filipina. I am also a Filipina that loves traveling. I'm a Filipina that loves Japanese food. I'm a Filipina that loves American music. I'm a Filipina that loves British humor. So it kind of is a smorgasbord of all of these things. So it makes it a little bit more complicated, but it also makes it interesting. It depends where you're looking at it from.
No, but you also, they go all around the world now. I mean, anywhere you go, you can meet a Filipino. And yeah, it must be, I think probably in some ways kind of the center of the world, it's because everything flows through you. You've got the best of everything. You kind of, I've never been there. I've been all around Asia, but I never went to the Philippines. So
You should definitely come to the Philippines. We'd love to. Kara and I and the whole Spring Studios team would love to bring you out and make you see the beaches and the food and the culture that we have. We have culture.
yeah, yeah. Well, the people are so lovely. I mean, you don't meet an angry Filipino very often, or you've got your stereotype is they're very lovely people, no?
It's the tropical sun, Jack. I
Okay.
mean, if you got tropical sun, great beaches, good food, and lots of carbs like we do here in the Philippines, you'll be a happy person too.
Yeah, the diet is something though, isn't it? I mean, it's not the healthiest, is it? It's quite.
It's far from the healthiest. It's
Hmm.
literally on the other side of the spectrum.
Yeah, yeah, okay. And so how are things with COVID over there? Because obviously you're in full lockdown, are you?
Yeah. I mean, it's been really bad. We're still in full lockdown, and well, it's not funny. It's relatively funny to me because currently we started going back to work, and I do shoots and I work in TV, and anytime that I work in TV, what would happen is the network that I work for would give me a van and a security team that goes with us to the shoot. And the security team that they gave us apparently had COVID-19. They
Ah,
didn't
that's
know. They didn't know that they had COVID-19, but apparently they were waiting for the results. And right on the day of my shoot, after riding with this security team for like 2 hours on the road, they told us that, oh, those guys apparently have COVID and you guys have to cancel the shoot and start quarantining. So the interesting thing is now we're in quarantine mode. We are called persons under monitoring
oh so
because we have,
gosh.
yeah. So I've been watching out for like throat itches and headaches and things like that the past few days. So
So you're
this
you're
is
in you're in special quarantine within quarantine. Oh my
a
God.
special if quarantine wasn't bad enough, we had to multiply it into two, right?
That's gosh, because I was heard when on one of your podcasts that you're getting kind of depressed, like you called it Zoom gloom,
Mm-hmm.
that
Yeah.
you have to, to speak to, because I felt very guilty about our interview today because I know, I heard you talking about how you hate in Zoom and, you have to get yourself up for the game. And,
Mm-hmm.
that's like, because me, I'm still in my pajamas here. So I haven't prepared at all for our meeting. So I haven't put on I haven't even shaved. I haven't done my hair.
Mm-hmm.
I clean my teeth though, but that's it really. So But I was reading about how much you prepare, and because you feel up, if you do your face, you feel up for it. You're fresh.
Yeah.
You fix
I
your
think
mentality.
Yeah. I think that's one of the complications of dealing with mental health, right? For some people, you could like, I have a lot of friends also who just get out of bed and they could just go to work instantaneously. Like their mindset is just right there. But I guess it's also one of the normal things that I have been dealing with as somebody who has mental health issues, that I really need to prepare myself for the work that I'm doing. Because if not, I'm going to struggle through the whole process of the work. So by me preparing for this interview, taking a shower, putting on a bit of lipstick, and kind of like prepping myself for the work itself, it helps me enjoy the thing that I'm doing instead of, kind of be glum and feel the things that I'm feeling. So yeah,
So
it's a good thing.
are you
I'm
enjoying
happy.
school so far? I mean, how am I doing out of 10? I mean,
Yes, you are a 12 out of 10. Thank you, Jack, for making this call. I really appreciate it.
no, well, I mean, but what's your day looking like at the moment? I mean, how many calls are you having today, and what kind of work do you have to do today?
Well, so I just have this call with you, and then I have to shoot. So we have a TV show. My husband and I, we host a TV show together. And so now that we're in quarantine, what they're asking us to do is shoot a segment here at home. So we're going to be shooting that and then do a couple of other podcast things. I actually recently just signed up with Spotify as one of their exclusive podcasters.
Did you really?
Yeah, so
Oh,
we had the big
congratulations.
announcement yesterday. Thank you, thank
Oh,
you. So just
congratulations.
focusing on those things.
Because yeah, they just signed Joe Rogan for $100 million. So you were number two on the list.
Yes, definitely. I mean, I was kind of angry at them for giving Joe Rogan the TF that I was asking for, but it's totally fine. I guess I'll settle with 90 million. It's not a
Okay.
big deal.
so, so did you meet your husband through hosting the show together, or do
Yes,
you?
we did. We did. It's so
Gosh, you
cheesy.
took your work home with you.
Yes, I did. You know what they say, don't crap in your backyard. I did all the crapping in my backyard.
So how did you have like a lengthy on-screen romance, or did it, you kept it secret, and then there was people were guessing, and then it was on the.
All those cliches that you just mentioned, all that. So we don't act. Well, my husband's an actor and a host. I only do the hosting part. So we hosted together, and the first few months people were just teasing us, and I was kind of like, I just came out of a relationship. I'd been single for 2 years. I didn't feel like I wanted to get into a relationship, but he was so persuasive and so persistent. So I ended up dating him. And this whole dating process happened on live television every morning.
Okay.
Yes,
How was
because we host
that?
a morning show. Interesting. Well, we ended up getting married, so it's cool. If we ended up breaking up, it would be more complicated. But since we ended up marrying each other, it's okay.
I guess that's a good thing, because if you were doing the evening show together, you have kind of time to prepare, but you're doing the morning show, you're seeing your worst now. I mean,
Yes, definitely. I was telling him that the beginning of our relationship, so we used to have separate vans because obviously we didn't live together. So he used to have a separate service in a van for himself. And before he came to see me in the morning, I would see him gargle and like do a little gargle, before he faced me. Like he would
mhm.
try to wash his face to look good, because he was trying to court
How
me.
is this like? How early is it? How early is early? Is it like 6 in the morning, or?
No, our show starts at 5:30,
Oh
so
my
we have
God.
to be on set at like 4:30 a.m. Asians, right? We wake up really early. So yeah, and then after a couple of months, he stopped gargling, and he was just like,
Oh, you were disappointed.
of course I was disappointed. I was like, where did all that
Oh, he stopped
gargling and
trying.
yeah, he stopped trying. But I mean, after a couple of months of hosting the morning show, right, and doing all that jazz at 4 in the morning, I kind of understand. So I let him be.
Oh, but that's a slippery slope. Once you let him stop the gargling, then he stops other things.
Well, good
Mm.
news, Jack. He's gone back to the gargling now that we're married, and I'm happy to report that he has really good hygiene. So,
Okay.
surprisingly.
Gosh, I met my girlfriend when we were traveling, and we were traveling for 8 months together. And that's kind of that heavy induction. If you can travel with someone, um, then because we were traveling very light. We were having the same clothes, so I think she started washing my underwear after about the fifth day, and I thought, here's a girl.
Hmm.
So
It's a
that kind of
keeper.
in. Gosh, but anyway, not talk about me, but let's get back to you. So, what else can I ask you? I was looking at your podcast, and yeah, because you're doing the 20 somethings, yeah,
Yeah.
your audience.
Hmm.
So how does that work? I mean, you have to be genuinely, because I'm getting older, so I don't know about. I was trying to listen to a few of these, but about dating and creating a powerful morning routine. That was a good one. So
Thank you.
what's your the kind of the best episodes to go back and listen to on your podcast?
Ooh, that's a good one. It really depends, I guess. Sometimes I get surprised with what people like to listen to on the podcast. And I was just telling the Spotify team yesterday, the interesting thing is when you put on a podcast, and I'm sure you've experienced this too, people would listen to your past episodes, maybe episodes from months or years ago,
Hmm.
and something that might not be relevant to you right now because it's something that happened in your past is so relevant to someone else in the present. So I think that's so interesting that that happens. So it really depends, I guess, what you're going through. I think one of the episodes that would always get a lot of responses is anger management. So I had an episode where I just talked about anger management and how I used to have a lot of difficulty handling the way that I handle emotions and anger because I would
Hmm.
always suppress my emotion and not blurt it out and not actually process it. So I did an episode on anger management, on processing your emotions. So those are things that have really helped a lot of people. I did another episode with Gretchen Ho, who is also a TV presenter here in the Philippines, and it was called Keeping a Positive Mindset. And I think that was really relevant, especially now because of COVID-19. A lot of people are looking for ways to stay positive during this time. Because if you're just at home or if you lost your job and you're going through all of these things, it's hard to keep an outside perspective of positivity. So that's something that they always go back to. And another episode that would always get a lot of attention is dealing with negative people and people who work
Okay.
from offices or companies. They're like, I love this episode, girl. I can't tell you about this employee or this coworker or this office mate that I have. They're a pain in my butt. I loved listening to this episode. So those are some of my favorites.
Okay, because I've got to write a song about this. So, did you have any ideas about what particular aspect of Joyce Pring I could bring into the light?
Ooh, I have no, you know what? That you're making me feel like I'm on the spot and I don't know. Like pick a part of my, I don't know. It really depends, I guess. What do you find most interesting about from all of the things that you've been listening to?
Well, when I interview other people, they do their thinking for me. Normally I get people who have written a book. So they have this big thing they want to promote. So I write a song about what they're trying to do. But with you, I don't know. I mean, I guess that you're very honest. So that kind of you like channeling this when you're talking about Zoom gloom in particular and how because that's something we can all relate to, isn't it? Like we're all struggling to put on our best face, best
Yeah,
voice
yeah.
um, with other people, and yeah, having these conversations where we have to be up. You know, even if not just because we're doing a podcast, but if we're interviewing you, if you're talking to your colleagues at work, you know, we're all doing it via Zoom, and you know, it's a whole new way of speaking, isn't it? It's a whole new way of, you know, when you have a conversation in real life, it's different to this what we're having now. So yeah, there's all these sorts of different ways to communicate. I'm not really used to it yet, so
yeah, so probably that, right? Zoom, Gloom, communication, being vulnerable, being honest. I think that's a huge part of myself, just those two things, communication and honesty. And it's pivoted my life both personally and professionally a lot. Zoom Gloom is such a funny song title. It's a cool song title if you're going to use it, but it's true. It's hard because you don't get to pick. So one of the articles that I was reading recently is something that talked about how one of the reasons why it's hard to do Zoom conversations is when you're talking to someone in person, your brain automatically picks up on their body language or their facial expressions or like the small tics that they do with their bodies. But when you're on Zoom, it changes everything. Like you can't really see that. You can't really feel or really have that human physical connection while you're talking, so it adds to the gloom, I guess, and to the difficulty of connecting. So
but you're like you're a TV presenter, so it's your job to, you know, be in front of a camera and you're talking to a blank space, you know. You don't get any reaction. So that's, how do you do that? I mean, that's kind of what it's like acting, but you just speak and then you know, I mean, when I'm talking to you, if I run out of something to say, you can help me, you'll fill in for me, but you're naked there when you're on TV, just speaking to the void. How do you, I mean, if I was doing this podcast by myself, it'll be a lot harder, you know, to keep a continuous mental flow. And I guess you're reading it sometimes with a teleprompter, but a lot of the time you're not. I mean, you're really having to. So what's the difference between a Zoom call and a TV presenting?
I guess it's the setup, you know, and I guess it's the setup and the goal of the action. Like the goal of the action of TV presenting is presenting an idea and a situation that you're currently in. So for example, if I was TV presenting about my house right now, I could go on and keep talking about, you know, so we got this house in 2018, you know, we've refurbished everything. There's something that you're presenting and you're talking about. And
presenter.
Right, you're a presenter. You're basically talking about something that's already there in existence, as compared to Zoom calls and talking to someone. You're actually bantering. The term is bantering, right? You're jumping back and forth with ideas and getting energies and thought processes together. So when you're TV presenting, you don't really think about connecting with your audience. That's different from live hosting, which I also do. It's very, very different. But TV presenting is just, you have to think about, okay, how do I show people what I'm currently doing or what I'm currently going through and what I want them to understand. So different.
Such a skill. So when what did you break your teeth in? How did you start, you know? Because when I'm doing the music, you start in a small cafe with no one listening. You're at the back, and you practice and practice and practice. You start in that's the paddling pool, the baby pool, and you go into the big one later. But so because you're not just go live on national TV first day of work. You know how did you cut your teeth? What was your baby pool?
Yeah, well, I had baptism by fire because I didn't have any background with TV, but I entered this TV competition when I was 18 years old, and the TV competition was, funnily enough, presenting music videos. So I was a VJ, a video jock for music videos, and yeah, that's how I started. That's really, I had no idea what I was doing. You
just got that first thing you got. Gosh.
That's the first thing I got. And it was a TV competition. So I was actually studying fine arts. I was a painter. So I was studying fine arts and I was writing. I was very introverted. I thought I was introverted, but you know, I needed to work and there was this great opportunity. My friends were telling me, you know, you look like you could be on TV. You speak English well, so might as well try it. And I went because I needed money. And at that time, I was working in an offshore company as a writer, and I hated my job because I had to be awake from 12 midnight to 9 a.m. for office hours in Australia or in the States or somewhere. And I hated doing that kind of job. So I was like, you know what? If I work in TV, I'd have more money and not work as much as I work now in the company. So I'm going to try it out. And I won. So I had no idea what I was doing for the first few years. I kid you not, years in TV. And I struggled so much. And I had to learn along the way. And, you know, kind of going back to what I was saying earlier, I think that's the reason why I'm so open with finding solutions and communicating what I need and asking for help and being vulnerable, because those are the things that have helped me hone my work now, my craft, and myself as a person. So it changed everything.
Yeah, because now like everyone's doing Zoom, so now everyone's kind of a presenter. But you know, you're the top.
It's the work.
Yeah. Okay, fantastic. But yeah, like so going back to that, but even you get depressed then with Zoom. Even you, someone, what I was trying to say, there was a bigger thought behind that, is that even someone with your wealth of experience and your experience talking to camera, even you don't like it, even you find it difficult. So what hope is there for the rest of us?
Yeah, definitely. I think, you know, it's the cliche thing that we always hear, but it's in a different form. People would always say, oh, even the prettiest or the coolest or the most successful people in the world still experience sadness and dissatisfaction. What more people who are currently vying for those things, vying for fame or fortune or success in their life, right? I think on my end, it's that kind of philosophy, but in a different form. Even me, who was trained to be a presenter, trained to work digitally, trained to talk to a camera, trained to be constantly doing conversation, even me, even a professional in the field, would still feel the dissipation of satisfaction from this kind of connection. What more people who aren't used to it? So with that kind of thinking, we have to be kinder to each other. We have to be kinder to teachers who are trying to do online schooling now, who are trying to teach. You know, I saw a photo or an article about this 65-year-old professor who was figuring out how to do a Zoom call because they had to be back in school. There are a lot of people who are now looking for jobs online because they have no other choice but to look for jobs online. So this human experience of finding difficulty in something that even professionals have found difficulty in, it's so human, right? It's so real. So I think it's just a call to action for people to be more kind, understanding, and empathetic towards each other.
So what can people do then? You know, if they're new to Zoom and they're having to do, you know, these presenting to a class of people they've never done it before, and there's all these faces, or you're communicating with your colleagues or your boss suddenly via Zoom, you know, and you're not. How can people cope with it? How can people excel at it?
I think scheduling is everything. The first thing is I try not to squeeze in too many calls per day. And I find that a lot of people do that. Like they try to go from one Zoom call to another, and they don't really realize that it's just like meeting with people in person. You can get exhausted and tired from talking to someone, and forcing yourself to do 12 Zoom calls a day is going to be very difficult. So if you have the option to, I know some people don't, but if you have the option to, try to pace yourself so that you don't spread yourself too thinly in the kind of conversations and connections that you make with other people. And I find also that now, Jack, you know, I only scheduled you to be my Zoom call for today because I wanted to really give my everything to this call. I wanted to connect with you. I wanted to, you know, make sure that I spend time with you and listen to your ideas and exchange ideas and not feel like it's work. I wanted to connect with someone, and I think that's very special. So that's one thing that we could do. The second thing is I guess to have fun with it. If you're going into a Zoom call anyway, you might as well, if you like that kind of sort of thing, if you like dressing up, if you like changing your virtual background, if you like setting up your computer and finding a nice mic or a nice webcam, if you find joy in that, then go on ahead and do that, because it helps you cope with this new normal. And third and finally, I think be on Zoom calls with people that have the capacity to help you grow as a person, whether that's your colleagues that you have to work with, or friends and family that will encourage you and enlighten you throughout the day. Make sure that you appreciate and remind yourself that when you're in a Zoom call, it's easier to trick your mind into thinking that you're just in front of your computer talking to someone, that you actually forget that there's another human being on the other end of that call. And that call makes it special. So learning and reminding yourself that, this is not just a call. There's another human being on the other side of this call that I'm talking to, that is going through a completely different experience for me. So
that's like what you said at the start, like interviewing is about listening.
Connecting.
Yeah. Beautiful. That's great stuff. Yeah, you thought about that. Fantastic. Yeah. Okay. Because, it's difficult for everyone at this time. Yeah. We all need to be up our game. Yeah. Okay. Well, you have anything else to ask me? I didn't prepare many questions, as you can probably tell. I kind of
no, that's totally fine.
haven't got that area of it nailed down. But is there anything else you'd like to talk about, like what's going on with your life at the moment? Obviously, this Spotify is really exciting.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. We've actually been working out this deal since tail end of last year. So to finally be able to talk to other people about it and make the announcement, it's a huge deal. And I was the representative podcast for the Philippines. So when we had the press con yesterday with Spotify, I was the only podcaster on the call. So I was like, this is fantastic. I mean, I feel really great about it. And they capped, I think, around 9 podcasts. So it was really cool. Yeah, that's what's been happening. I'm newly married. So I think all this connection conversation is coming from personal experience of being married for the past year and being quarantined for a majority of that year.
That's the honeymoon from hell, no?
Yeah. Tell me about it, right? Everyone's like, oh, it's an extended honeymoon. And I was like, you bet, definitely is. But yeah, I think it's really where the whole communication conversation has been coming from. I've been learning to communicate, and I feel like that kind of open communication is something that we have to learn and relearn all the time. So I'm trying to apply it even in Zoom Glooms and Zoom calls.
Okay. Do you have a garden?
A what?
Do you have a garden? Do you have green space?
Yeah, now we have some green space. So
that's so important. That's what saved me through quarantine.
It's a tiny little patio.
Yeah, just to get out the house though. That's so important. I'll show you I'm in my meditation room now, and that's sorry about this terrible echo. That's because of the reason. But I've got my parents staying, so I've been kicked out of my studio. So yeah, I'm in my little room. So.
They've gotten hostile takeover already.
They have. They drove here from England. So, but I can tell you all about this on your podcast because I'm chatting to you. I'm honored to be one of your guests on your podcast. So
I'm so excited. We actually posted on Facebook and social media about you, and if my listeners have any questions, so they've actually sent in a lot of questions. About songwriting, music, mental health, your creative process, all those cool things.
I'm a much better guest than I am interviewer. I am very new to being an interviewer, and it's had to completely change my egotistical personality to actually being interested in other people in this way. It's very difficult for me, because I'm used to being the star. I'm used to, just broadcasting. So I'll be a much better, you'll have a much better experience than I just did, I promise.
No, you're doing great. I have no idea why you say that, because you're actually doing great. I think you're asking good questions, you're keeping the conversation going, and you're being honest about the way that you're learning about being an interviewer. So
Well,
that's
that's
cool.
the advice. I've got that honesty out. I've got that down. That's what I learned from you. And yeah, talking about yourself and your problems is what you do on
Mm,
your podcast. So I hope that will make my podcast more interesting, and not just the fact that I have this gimmick, it's like, which you can sum up in one sentence, that I write a song about the people, but it's kind of like one of those movies where these two people are driving across America, and that's the idea, they drive across, but really it's that there's an understory, and hopefully that understory, as I develop in this podcast, will become more interesting. So but yeah, still I have to concentrate a lot, because I have to write these songs about people, and I have to find. I've already done one about Zoom calls. Is that what you said about you dress up, but you only have to do that from the waist, So what you do below the waist,
it's
you can
jammies.
you can do whatever you like, or you can dress as the opposite sex. That's what I did in one song. So just because you can express yourself.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So,
that makes a lot of sense.
so maybe at the end of this grand podcast Podsongs experiment, I can have an album of songs about each subject. At this rate, I'm going to have an album of songs about Zoom chats. So, but I think your song could be the single. So, Zoom Gloom. Yeah,
Zoom gloom.
I just need the melody and the rest of the lyrics. So, wish me
Awesome.
luck.
You can do it. I'm really excited to hear it. Do you have enough material to make a song out of it?
No.
No?
No, you need to give me something else. Yeah. It's going to be a struggle.
Oh my gosh. How can I help? I don't know how to help.
I don't know. Well, you can pray for me.
I will. I'll pray for you.
No, but it's Zoom Gloom. So is there anything else that I think you covered it all really. No. Okay, well I think I can do the rest. You have to leave it with me. I'm a professional.
I believe you. I feel so bad. I hope that I did okay.
That's what a lot of guests tell me. Actually, I had another guest last week, and he was a podcast guy. He says, how are you gonna write a song from that? I don't see the, but I just pull it out of the air at the end. So I'm just channeling like you. There's these other spirits coming through me, and they're much better at songwriting than I am. So yeah, I've just got to really relax here in my meditation room and let it flow.
Yeah.
Wait for a melody.
Did you know I was reading this book by Brene Brown, and
you read a lot.
Yes, I love reading. But she was talking about how the word genius comes from the Greek word or the term genie. And before, what they think about when they think about creatives and geniuses was that there's this otherworldly spirit that comes to you and gives you that idea, and it asks you to give life to that idea. So she was talking about how a genius is basically like a genie coming to you and giving you this creative idea. So she was saying that, when you're an artist or when you're a creative, your job is not really to kind of like pound yourself to create this wonderful thing, but to wait for the genie to come and be ready when that genie comes with all the skill set, the knowledge, and everything else that you need to bring life to that idea. And she was saying something like, this genie also, if you don't, if it keeps coming to you and you don't give life to it, it's going to find somebody else to bring life to it. So I don't know. It was just something interesting that I thought about when
that's 100% right. That's what was who wrote that book again?
I think it's Brene Brown. I'm going to double check for you.
Okay, no, that's 100% right, because there are two ways to write songs, and so if I really push it, and I have to think of something, and I sit down and try and do it in a very, very right brain, very analytical, then it'll be a terrible, terrible song. But if I just wait for it to come, then it'll be a proper song. It'll be a flow thing, And there are all, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just saying, and you're right, it flows. Like sometimes you write songs and it's 10 minutes and you're done, right? You
Yeah.
write
Oh,
everything at
yes.
the
The
same
best
pace.
ones. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when you do painting, yeah, you're a painter. You still
Mhm.
painting?
Well, sometimes, and not so much anymore. But it's when I write. I love to write poetry and prose and all that stuff. And I have great days where you wake up and there's this thing already that's kind of like swirling in your head, a line, and then when you write that line, everything else just follows. So
Mm.
that's kind of like the genie, right? You have that one line, and all the other the rhymes come to you, the pacing comes to you, the rhythm comes to you, and it blows me away. So when I read that, I felt like it was something that a lot of my friends who were creatives could also relate to, and you did. So I'm glad.
100%. Actually, last year I got into metaphysics, which is something I try to mention on every podcast because it's so fascinating. It's the most fascinating thing I've ever studied. Um, and it says that there are all these different. So there is God, there is the whole thing, yeah, the whole shebang. That's everything in manifestation and everything not in manifestation. And that, but there are all these sub levels, and that we reincarnate in an endless reincarnatory cycle. It was actually in the Bible, they took it out in about 600 AD.
Oh, did
Jesus,
they?
yeah, Jesus, he preached reincarnation, but yeah, the Pope took it out because they can make more money by convincing people that when they go, they should leave it all to the church. So, and the God in the Bible is actually the Son. If you when you really look at it, what Jesus said is the Son, because that's the nearest thing to God in our level of manifestation, and it's actually a conscious being that we evolve into. So we evolve. Once we leave out this cycle of we reincarnate on other planets, and then we gradually merge our consciousness together and go into the sun, and then eventually the planets are consciousnesses, the galaxies are consciousness. They're all evolved beings and merged consciousness. So we evolve back to God as conscious gods. But on a much more basic level, we evolve. There's all these spirits, nature spirits, and evolving at the same time. And there's all these spirits on the astral realms who are talking to us all the time, but we can't see them, unless we develop our psychic powers. So it's actually a science. It's actually, you can say, oh, that it's just the universe trying to speak to me, but it's actual other conscious entities who are singing in my ear or trying to get me to write these things. And so because people say, oh, they think it's God, but that's just too big. God doesn't talk through anyone. It's aspects of God, and people are closer to God. I don't know how that ties in with your.
Well, it's very different. I mean, Christianity is pretty straightforward that God talks to his people through what Christ did on the cross. So basically, that's the new covenant. And I think the reincarnation that we believe in is the new heavens and the new earth when Christ comes again for judgment and all that jazz. So I think it's very different, but it's interesting because I always say that, there's an absolute truth that lines the universe. There's an absolute truth that whether you agree with it or not, it exists. And I feel like we're all kind of figuring that out. For me, I believe that it's Christianity. It's my faith in God. It's salvation through Christ. And that we will be reincarnated. We'll have life in eternity, whether in heaven or in hell. And some people believe in other things. But what do you believe in?
Well, Jesus, he never went away. He came from the bright and morning star. You read in Revelation. So he reincarnated onto this earth to bring the teachings and to for karmic reasons as well, karmic manipulations. So yeah, he ascended on the cross. So he died physically, and then he was reborn. He reassembled his physical body. He was an advanced yogi, so he studied in Tibet in those lost years. Before he became he came back to teach was prominence. So he learned advanced yoga techniques, and he stayed around on the other realms for about 700 years on this earth teaching, and that's why his teachings are so prominent, is because he did lots of teaching after in his ascended body. Because when you have an ascended body, you can travel between the realms. You can go into the hells and the heavens, and you don't go into the hell forever or heaven forever based on your limited time on earth. It's just not logical. You do karmic actions which affect which level of vibration you go and live on the astral, and you go and live there for a while, which is still right here. It's just a different octave of manifestation, just a different level of vibration. And you go and live there for a while, and then you're reborn here, and then you go back there, and you're reborn here. And if you are very bad, you'll go into in a dark place, or you go into a very, very pleasurable place, higher level. But no, it's pleasurable for all people. You just go to the level that you vibrate at. So if you love gambling and drinking and base activities, you go burn off your desires, but it's in a very dark place. And if you go to a higher level, a higher realm, it's very enjoyable. In a like going to a library here or a very beautiful cathedral. If you're a drunkard, you wouldn't enjoy that experience. You couldn't live on those higher vibratory frequencies. So, but yeah, so Jesus was an advanced yogi from the bright and morning star, and he left all these teachings, but they've been quite distorted by the Catholic Church, and the Bible changed a lot. His original teachings were not what is now in the Bible. It's quite distorted. He definitely preached reincarnation, and that's why the early Christians, were happy to die for him, for their beliefs, because they knew they were coming back. So this idea of this long heaven and long hell is it's just not logical when you think about it as well. It wouldn't be pleasurable to be there forever. We're all evolving. If you look at evolution, it's the spiritual evolution is the same as evolution. You have to be evolving and learning and improving all the time. This is one big classroom. We're here to learn. So every experience gives us this chance to evolve, and improve. So through countless incarnations. Sorry, I kind of took over the podcast there, but
no, it's all right.
It's my
very interesting.
Yeah. So, but yeah, definitely, Jesus was a fantastic divine spark of God, but he's not the one and only Son of God. He's one of many. He's many times closer to God than us, but he's still in this incarnatory cycle.
So where did you read all this? Like, is there a religion that you follow?
Yes, it's the Aetherius Society, it's called. And he
Aetherial Society?
Aetherius is one who comes through the ethers. So it's from the interplanetary masters on the other planets who are, because, if you go to other planets, they're uninhabited on our realm of existence, but on the electromagnetic spectrum is solid at each level of vibration. So where we are, this microphone is solid and this computer is solid, but you change the dial a little bit and you go to another octave of manifestation. So if there's all these levels that we can't see because we're only at this level of vibration. So, but on other realms or other planets, there's sort of completely solid, there's cities and life and palaces and whatever, but we don't see them, so they're uninhabited to us. But if you understand that this electromagnetic spectrum has, it's like when you change the radio, you can tune into a different frequency and you get the bass notes and the high notes, and you can listen to classic FM, yeah, and you don't believe there's a rock station because you just don't turn the dial. So if you study that and you buy into it, then it kind of understands, how UFOs and life after death, all because of this level, this understanding about these octaves of manifestation. It's a lot to
Cool.
take in. I know it's took me a while, but yeah. But it's all in the Bible, If the Bible's basically a UFO book, with pillars of smoke and stars moving through the sky, guiding wise men. That stars don't do that. It's obviously a UFO. So there's all these UFOs in the Bible that you haven't when you read it and notice. Yeah. Think about it. Giving you some food for thought today.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm pretty solid with what I believe in with the Bible, and I've also, but I think it's always interesting to hear what other people think. And I was just thinking right now, we're looking at the same thing and seeing different things. Like we're looking at the same Bible and seeing different things. So it's very interesting.
It's true. It's like the blind men with the elephant. Yeah, I was going to call this podcast "The Blind Men and the Elephant" because we all have aspects of the truth. I haven't got. You go. The one blind man feels the elephant's leg and says, "The elephant is like a tree."
Yeah.
Definitely like, no, you're an idiot. It's like a rope. He's feeling the tail. It's like a wall. So we all have these aspects of the truth that we can tune into. So, but yeah.
Yeah.
New and shiny thoughts.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for that.
No worries. Well, I'm pretty pleased to be able to share with you and hear about you from your life in the Philippines. I definitely got an insight from you into what it's like to be a TV presenter locked in an apartment in the Philippines.
Hopefully it's something that you can make a song out of. I'm excited to hear about it.
Definitely. All right, then.
All right. Well, I'll see you on Friday, I think, right?
Yep, 2 days. Yeah, I get to the roles are switched, and I'm really excited to be. Will we be on Spotify or will we be on your normal channel?
Just on Spotify. Well, we'll be talking on Zoom, and I can only upload it on Spotify. And then we'll probably record the video as well, and we'll do like a 5-minute, maybe like take a nice bit from the video and upload it on YouTube and all the others.
I better shave. I better dress up.
Yeah.
But thanks for the heads up.
No problem. I'll see you on Friday then, huh?
Okay, Joyce. Thanks again.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Today hardly breaks, no time to play. Double the work without the breaks. All over my body aches. Just 'cause I'm home doesn't mean I'm free. I'm working flat out virtually. That's not the way the family sees it, calling me in my room. Zoom gloom weighs me down. Talk is long, talk is cheap. With people I never meet. Zoom gloom, nowhere to hide. Cameras on, I feel open wide, and everyone could see inside. Mind is drifting, can't concentrate. Biting hard just to stay awake. Who wants a meeting after lunch? One bad apple in the Brady Bunch. Too many faces to cognitize. I need more info than just the eyes. After every call I'm feeling drained. Communicatively immune. Zoom gloom weighs me down. Talk is long, talk is cheap. With people I never meet. Zoom gloom, nowhere to hide. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please rate and review it on your podcast app, or search out the song on any of the major music services. Or you can download directly from podsongs.com. Buying the song directly is the best way you can help us financially. Thanks to Maurizio Sarnicola and Massimino Vodza for working with me on the music, and Dori Verba, my researcher. And thanks to you, the listener. See you next time.